Well, as I'm sure you all know, we're going to talk about Excel functions and formulas. So this person's relaxing in a boat because this is the last relaxation you're going to have for the next hour and a half. So,
Oh dear.
so just get you ready. So the first I want to talk about is just the general concepts of functions in general within Excel. Some of the different things you need to know to be able to use them effectively. In Excel, you've got the three basic data types. You've got the date, you've got number, and you've got text. What some people don't understand is that the date is actually stored as the number of days since January 1st, 1900, and they call that the serial date. So sometimes when you look at the date, it might say like 42,000 and it doesn't look right, but if you change it to a date view, then you can see it. But that means you can also do math between the dates. So every date has not only the time, or not only the date, but has the time built in as well. So the arguments, whenever you're building a function, you need to have all the different parameters or parts within the thing, and those are called the arguments. And you have different types of arguments. You have optional and you have mandatory. So the mandatory arguments are the ones that if you don't have it, the function will not work. But then sometimes there's additional arguments that you can tack on to the end. We'll go into those in more detail. Hopefully by now you've all used Excel enough to have some idea of referencing, where you can refer to cell A1 or where you can refer to cell $A, $1 to make it so it's consistent. So all the different ways of referencing the data. Also, when you're dealing with functions, you can go through and you can copy and fill in the data and make it so it automatically populates in the same way that when you're doing references, the functions, if you've got a reference within the function, you can make those either automatically populate or not populate depending on how you set it up. So we'll talk about that. And of course, the important part is viewing the results, making sure that you got what you expected, and then going through and validating. It doesn't do you any good if you just build the function or build the formula and just assume that it worked, because then when you do a little bit of an edit, you'll end up with a situation where your footers don't match up, that type of thing. So how do you add a function? Well, there's a few different ways of finding what functions you want to add. The first one is on the ribbon bar, it just says formulas, and within there you've got all your different function categories. You've got your whatever you've used recently, your auto sums. All the different functions are available there, and they're categorized to make it easier to find. You've also got these two FX buttons. Either one of those, when you click on it, will bring up a dialog to help you find a function. The third choice is to just type in equals and then start typing the name of the function. If you know the function already, you can do that. You type it in, and notice it says there if logic test, value of true, value of false. So it teaches you what the function needs as you're trying to type it in. And you type it in, and it fills in blocks what the next thing that you need. And so those are the arguments. The logical test, the value of true and value of false, that's what I was talking about as arguments. And your arguments are always separated by commas. If you don't put the equal sign, you won't be able, it won't think you're doing a function, it'll think you're just doing text. And if you type in a function and it doesn't appear, like you look at it and it leaves the function there, it's probably because you have the cell formatted as text and it thinks you want to do text. If you change it to general, it usually works. So let's talk about the different dialogues that you get with functions. When you hit the FX button, you get this dialog. So you've got a way to search for functions, and it's got a little bit of a fuzzy logic, so you can go through and just type in a description and it'll give you the value, it'll give you a suggestion. Or you can use the filter by category. These are the same categories as the formula toolbar has, or the formula ribbon has. Or you can select one that you've done recently. Excuse me. Once you have them selected, you get a new function. If you click on if and then say OK, you get a new dialog here that can walk you through all the different portions of it. So both the insert function and the function arguments dialog, they explain the function in reasonably good detail. So if checks whether condition is met, returns one value of true and another value of false. So it gives you a really good idea of whether this is the one you want before you don't have to look up help or anything. You also get an explanation of the arguments. So logical test is any value or expression that can be evaluated as true or false. You know it's logical because it says that along the end of the function. And then you also have, you can see value of true, it can be anything. Value of false, it can be anything. So it gives you a lot of information. And this dialog also helps because it shows you what the result is. If you put in a bunch of values, it will show you what that value is. So it's a really good way of troubleshooting what's going on and seeing whether or not you're going to get the results you expect to get.